Welcome to Dom's Corner, everybody, the show about entertainment and a little bit of life, too. My name is Dom Martino, of course. I am your host. And before we get started today, guys, please hit that like button below, subscribe to the channel, leave some feedback in the comments section. Today, I have my panelist here, Mr. Adam Leach. Adam, how you doing today?
Pretty swell. How are you?
I'm doing pretty swell myself, sir, and I am excited to talk about Rogue One, as I'm sure you are. I feel like Rogue One was the whole reason that you just joined YouTube, just to have a conversation about this movie. Look how happy you are. You look like a 6-year-old that just found Waldo for the first time.
I gotta say, I was really happy. This was really, not that I don't enjoy watching Star Wars in general, but yesterday I got excited because I think I was eating dinner with Megan. I said, "Oh, I have to watch Rogue One tomorrow." Yes.
This is how I picture your day went, dude. Like, I feel like you woke up today. You knew it was Rogue One day. You woke up in a great mood today. Your hair was looking all swagger. You didn't put your pants on one leg at a time. Your pants were just already standing up for you, so you just jumped right into them. Then you walked out into your kitchen area where a breakfast burrito just fell into your mouth and you just ate that breakfast burrito. Then you walked outside, slid down a staircase, gave a friendly wave to everybody in Burbank. And then you realized you hadn't showered yet, so then it started raining, and then you just showered in the rain, and then you just started levitating off the ground to get out of the rain, and then you just started floating back to your apartment area where the police officer saw you, and they're like, "Hey, a floating man, that's peculiar." Then they just chased after you as you were going back to your apartment complex. They're like, "We're not going to catch that guy. He's on a mission from God." You get over to your apartment complex. You didn't even have to open a door. It doesn't stop there. Your window just flings open. You go into your living room area where you decided to do jumping jacks for the rest of the day until this started. That's how I imagine your day was today.
That was so detailed.
Anyway,
you have cameras in my apartment?
Oh shit, I left out the part where Michael Bublé was probably playing that entire time too. But anyway, so upon revisit,
no, he's here. He's with me.
Of course, he's just in the apartment. So upon revisit, how did you like Rogue One this second time around, or probably 100th time around for you? And was I accurate about describing your day today, sir?
I freaking love Rogue One. There's no secret there. I just really enjoy it. I don't know how many times I've seen it. I haven't seen it a million times, but I've seen it more than a few. I haven't seen it since I was in school. Let's see, that was a year and a half ago or so was the last time I watched it, because we actually did for one scene, we broke down the audio and re-recorded the Foley, the sound effects. We had a small orchestra, very small, like 10-piece orchestra come in, and we recorded them and redid part of the soundtrack for a scene.
Well, that's cool.
And then we all put that together. Yeah, that was part of the homework. It was a lot of fun, a lot of fun. I still have that. On my computer. So watching this reminds me of being in audio school, makes me smile a little bit. So,
I'm sure.
But no, I love Rogue One. Sometimes I can't even put my finger on it. I just really like it. That's all I know. It feels, the best description I have is, ironically, to me it feels both the least and the most Star Warsy at the same time. It feels really new, yet it feels exactly how I feel like the tone of Star Wars should be. It just, the best way I can describe it is, it almost feels like the one Star Wars movie that doesn't feel like it was supposed to be targeting children to watch it. It feels more adult than the rest of it. Not that the other Star Wars aren't adult, but there's something about this movie that just feels a little more adult. It feels a little more serious, more grown up. Some people really like that. Some people hate it. I think it's great. So, but we'll break that down.
Yeah, listen, real quick, place your bet on how many editions I own of this. Go ahead and do that.
Well, the theme is pretty close to 3. I'm gonna say 4.
Interesting number. So before I get to if you came close or not. So, quick backstory behind this movie. So, this came out after Force Awakens. In my opinion, it's a massive risk just to make this movie because it was kind of the first live action, like high budget thing that was not a part of the Skywalker saga. And I commend this movie for that, and I always have. The other thing about it is when I saw it for the first time, I can honestly say that I was hesitant to say that I loved it the first time I saw it. I mean, I liked it a lot. But the more that it started popping up in different canon pieces, like comics and things like that, like the story just started to become integrated, it made me want to put it on again, and I watched it just kind of through those eyes. And I know that books and stuff, they're not supposed to make you appreciate a movie more, like it should be able to do it on its own. But that said, it wasn't really that like the books were needed. It just caused me in my mind to watch the movie through a different set of eyes. I gotta tell you, man, this movie is insanity, like in the best way possible. Like, I freaking love this movie. There's something about it, and talk about Kathleen Kennedy doing her job right. I know a lot of us like to complain about her, but this movie was headed toward a dumpster fire, like when this was, being made. Like, they called this movie unsalvageable, when it was in production, and because apparently, I don't know what Gareth Edwards did to ruin it. He still gets director credit on it, but we found out later Tony Gilroy really did pretty much the directing on this, and you can still see some of Gareth Edwards' style, which is really cool in the film. But to me, like, I just found it, it's amazing how much you can actually clean up a movie with the right people to come in and do it. And to me, it turned out better than Solo. Like, I'm not shitting on Solo. How I feel about Solo. I like it. I like it a lot. But this movie, I love. Like, this is really, really awesome. And it shows that you can make a Star Wars film that doesn't deal with the Force and all that. Like, you can allude to all those things, but it doesn't need to be that. Like, and it really shows just the fact that it was a $1 billion film, that fans are craving for, things that are new and new characters, and they want new things. And I think that it's a business strategy that they finally have figured out with The Mandalorian. I mean, there's a lot of similarities between Rogue One and the style that they choose to do in Mandalorian to me. Just in terms of like, they're definitely, they're really going in hardcore. It's a more gritty look. You know what I mean? It's a darker,
it almost
look
feels,
and feel.
if I had to put a word to it, I would say muted.
Yeah, that's a good word.
It's not so big and flashy. It's a little more gritty, a little more muted. It's just like, it's just gritty.
And this isn't anything against the sequels either, because I really love those movies. But the thing with this one is it definitely like made a point to tell you, because of how muted it is, I think, that it's in the same. It takes place right before New Hope, and I think you can actually almost get that from the tone by itself. Like, you don't even need to, realize it through narrative. Like, the tone is just telling you where this is at in the Star Wars universe, and it's pretty astounding when you look at what they were able to pull off with just this whole new story, and it feels so random, but it feels proper too. I don't know if that's the best way to explain it or not. So to give you kind of your to give you your cookie, assuming you won. Before we do that, let me show you my figgy. I got a Jyn Erso figgy here, which I definitely love. But honestly, okay, so you said 4 editions. All right, let me pick these up real quick. Hang on here. All right. Oh, I only have 1. Sorry to break it to you, but it is the Steelbook edition, and that's nothing to do with my love for the film. I actually have been tempted to buy the 4K edition here recently, just the regular one with the slipcover. And anyway. But yeah, I really love this movie. It's fantastic. So let's break this thing down. I am excited to talk about this one. I'm probably not as excited as you, but anyway, so we are going in, and one of the things that it's always going to bother us a little bit, and I felt like this is one thing that Ron Howard improved upon doing Solo. There's no crawl right here in the beginning. We're just kind of thrown right in. It's just a dun, then we're in, but boy, do the visuals look good here in the beginning. So it's kind of a mixed bag, because you're like, well, didn't really feel like a Star Warsy opening. But then once we're going in, I think the visuals just really pull you in, and it's like, this is like, everything looks like you can almost see everything to its exact scale. Like, that's just kind of the style that I think they decided to go with here. Like, everything almost looks, I don't know, like it looks bigger, and it looks more grandiose, maybe is a better way to put it. And so we're
Good
going in.
word.
Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of how I feel. It's grandiose. And it's really playing into that, plays into George's vision for these to be space operas, in my opinion, and that really helps it. But so we're going in, we're seeing Galen Urso, we're meeting Galen Urso, we're meeting I cannot remember the Urso mother's name. There is a name. She's been mentioned.
Yeah, I don't remember. I never remember her name.
Multiple canon pieces she's been mentioned in. But and then we have Jyn Urso as a child, so we're starting years before where the meat of the story starts. But this stuff, I like it because it's all super essential to the film. We see director Krennic come up, and here's my feelings on Krennic, which have actually changed over the years. I think he's a good character, and I think Ben Mendelsohn actually does a pretty good job playing the character for what they wanted, but I think he's an overrated villain. To me, like, the villain of this film isn't director Krennic, like everybody likes to hype up. And to me, the villain of the movie is actually, interestingly enough, the internal struggles that the characters are dealing with throughout it, to go against their normal way to do something, that's a very risky operation. That, to me, is actually what the real villain of the film is. It's not the Empire. It's not even Darth Vader. It's just the internal struggles that the characters have. I mean, don't get me wrong. These are all like villains, but they're like sub-villains. You know what I mean? That they put in these movies. But anyway, he comes up and he's really good in this first scene though, and getting Galen to come back. And obviously at this point we don't know what he's getting Galen to come into the Empire for. But yeah, he talks him into it. He shoots down the mother. Jyn is running. What is she says a line, right, when she gives her the thingamajig. Like, she says some kind of line, like, it's actually a really powerful line, and I can't think of it. I don't know if you happen to take notes or not, that you have that line on.
I don't remember. I didn't take note of that part.
Yeah. Trust in the Force. It just came to me. It was trust in the Force, which I thought was pretty cool.
That's
right. Very, very cool line. Jyn runs, she heads into a sewer, and then we see Saw Gerrera, his first appearance in a live action project. You see him multiple times in Clone Wars and Rebels, but this is the first time that we've seen him in a live action project. But yeah, what do you think of the I guess prologue to the whole film?
Yeah, to touch on the beginning with the crawl, when I first watched this movie, I was really mad that there wasn't a crawl. I like, let's see, I think I watched it with Megan and my cousin. I'm trying to remember who was all there, but I looked around and I was like almost offended at what I just watched. But funny enough, every time I watched it after that, I like it more. Especially when I watched it this time. I actually like that there's not a crawl. It's aged with me because the reason I like this movie so much is because this movie, it has a different purpose than the rest of the movies. This was almost like a little plot hole. It was a little gap in the movies. It was something that we didn't realize that we needed it, but once we realized there's kind of a pretty big hole there, and they said they were going to fill it, it was like, yeah, maybe we need this. And then after we had it, I was like, how did we live without this movie? But it has a different purpose. So even though it is filling an important part of the Star Wars timeline, it does stand by itself in the fact that there's a lot of characters that we're just not going to see again, that are only in this movie. And there's just a lot of new stuff. Like we said, it feels different. It's muted. It's gritty. It has a completely different vibe. It's, like I said, it's both the least and most Star Warsy at the same time. because it doesn't blend in with the others, and yet it's exactly how I almost wish every Star Wars would be from here on out. The vibe of it I really like because it doesn't feel kiddie. It feels like somebody really went into this like, listen, we're getting serious about this. We're going to tell a story. And so I liked that there's no crawl because to me it makes the movie stand out of the pack. And they start out with that orchestral hit, just and then you see the planet there, and it's almost like making a statement at the very beginning, like, this one's going to be different, let's get into it. Like, we're going to skip all the fluff, we're just getting into it. So I actually like it for that reason now. But yeah, going in there, I really like Krennic. I think I like the guy that plays him. He's got an interesting personality. Yeah, obviously not like the biggest, most terrifying villain. Like you said, the interesting thing about this movie is, the biggest concern of this movie, the biggest enemy, is really how are these people going to get together, come together, have faith in each other, in themselves, and how are they going to save the day? How are they going to make this happen? Because the fascinating thing about this movie is they really are a ragtag bunch that they all have different dynamics that don't necessarily mesh well together, and they come together at the right time, and they build chemistry over time, piece by piece. And then by the end, you feel like this is really a special group. So I don't know. I like that about this movie. I feel like even though a lot of people have beef with the character building, I have no beef with the character building. I think the character building is great. I think the chemistry builds perfectly. It starts out with a lot of dissonance between characters, and then by the end of the movie, they get close because they have a common goal and they have a common risk factor, and they put their heart into it. And so yeah, I think the beginning of the movie is good. A lot of people I've heard complain about the beginning. I don't personally have a problem with the beginning of the movie. I like how it builds. I like that there are gaps. I think a lot of people have issue with it because we're kind of used to, a lot of times Star Wars will leave things out, and then their way of filling it in is just like, all of a sudden we're just gonna throw all the information at you at once, and we're gonna fill in all the holes in one go and tell you everybody's backstory like real quick. And this movie is like, we have some skips in time, we have some backstories we need to know about still, and they kind of fill those holes throughout the movie through storytelling. Which I feel like is not the lazy way to do it. That's the proper way to tell a story, not to throw everything at you at once. And just be like, oh yeah, we forgot to mention all these holes in these people's story. Here you go, plug the hole. There it is. Instead, they organically do it throughout the story. So yeah, I like the beginning of the movie. I like the tension at the beginning. I like the attitude that Krennic has. Cool. And obviously, Galen Erso, I really like his character. The actor in general, I really appreciate.
Mads Mikkelsen. Mads Mikkelsen is awesome. Yeah. And I didn't even touch on the design of the Death Troopers right there in the beginning, because those things are freaking cool. They definitely cool. They fit this movie, and I can't wait to see more of them throughout canon. We saw some in Mandalorian too, so they definitely brought some into that. And the other thing I wanted to mention is Michael Giacchino's score is very good here right after, where he's the I used to have problems with that like back in the day, because I think it's not John Williams in me when I was watching it, but like the more I watch this movie, this score freaking grows on me. A lot of it had to do with, I added a bunch of Star Wars music to a playlist and I would listen to it on shuffle, and there'd always be one track, and every time there'd be this track that really hit me. I'm like, what Star Wars thing is this from? And I'd look, I'm like, oh, well, I'll be damned, it's Rogue One. And it just grew on me throughout the years. I
like that theme.
Yeah,
the theme, I like it grew on me.
Yeah, it's
I
cool.
like Michael Giacchino because he does the Incredible soundtracks, which are like stupid jazzy. Like if you're into soundtracks, anybody watching this and you like jazz or anything, like don't sleep on the Incredible soundtracks. Those are some great soundtracks. Yeah, I like his score here. That was something that I wanted to mention too.
Yeah, definitely amazing. I mean, he's a really great composer, and this score in particular has definitely grown on me throughout the years. I wish I had the soundtrack on a physical disc. That is one thing for this movie I do not have, unfortunately, and I need to get my hands on that, you know, one way or the other. But yeah, so he's so yeah, so we're moving into, and I think right around here, I think we start with Cassian Andor, who is actually one of my favorite additions. Am I right about that, or is it Jin first? Because it's either Jin or Cassian. I think it's Cassian.
Let's see. Yeah, we meet Cassian.
Yeah, Cassian comes up here, and now one of the things I really like about this. Now, let me explain. Like, I feel like I am one of the only ones that is excited about the Cassian Andor Disney Plus series that's coming out. Like, I really feel like I'm one of the only ones, and I don't quite understand why. Because okay, this is something that a lot of people probably aren't going to know about Cassian unless you read like other canon stuff. But before like Order 66 and the Empire took over, Cassian was on the side of the Separatists. So I really want to develop and figure out why he joined the rebellion, number one. That's one thing I want to learn. And that actually, that little nugget of information gives you more insights about, you know, things he's talking about in this film too. But I really want to know why he joined the rebellion. I think that'd be cool. That's one reason I think the Cassian Andor series is going to be exciting. And then the other thing that's going to make it exciting is more K2SO in the Cassian Andor series, and who doesn't want that? Seriously. And then we have
I'm so into K2SO, it's not even funny.
Oh yeah. And you know, just I can't guarantee they're gonna do this, but this is an idea that they might do, and I think that it makes a lot of sense if we see Cassia coming in on this mission here in this part of the movie, right? But we don't really know a lot about what led him here, and I think it'd be really cool if the series built to this moment in Rogue One, right? And then like that's the finale. It just ends like where Rogue One, his story in Rogue One starts. I think that would be amazing because he's clearly got you know, there's a lot going on before this, I feel like, and I always get the sense of that every time I watch this movie, that Cassian has a whole story behind him here. So yeah, I can't wait for that series, but I just wanted to mention that. But you know, he's coming up, and immediately Cassian is cool. Like immediately he's pretty cool. Like he's coming in, and you know, he's I mean, he shoots this guy who he makes, you know, he makes this guy believe that he's a friend, right? So like this is like Cassian Andor is basically, he plays like clearly like the mobster type role in the rebellion to me, and you see that throughout the film. Like, you know, he kind of makes you believe that he's gonna go one way, but he goes the complete opposite, and that's one of those dynamics that I love about this character. Plus, he has that really awesome accent, like when he speaks. I think it's amazing. But there's that going on for him. But I thought this opening stuff was really great with Cassian. But then moving into Jyn Erso, that's also really great. We see that Jyn has, you know, grown up and become an outlaw. One of the things though is, I guess you would figure it out eventually once you saw Saw Gerrera again, but they don't really ever tell you that, you know, the girl in the beginning is a young Jyn Erso. They don't, like, do they? Like, do they say her name at any point? Because every time I see her as an adult, I'm thinking like, wait, who's this? You know, who's this now? I don't know. That's just kind of something that I get every time I'm watching it, but maybe I'm just dumb. But I really like Jyn Erso as a character, and I think that her and Cassian definitely make the movie for me in terms of characters go. I mean, as far as characters go. And, you know, she's another one that I would like to get a lot more backstory on. And I want to know kind of what she was doing before this, too. So I hope they actually make a series with her as well. But basically, she's getting arrested. And then this is where we run into K2, I believe, where he's, you have the right to remain silent or something like that. It's a really funny line that he throws out here.
He says, man, it's sad I don't remember this, because
I know, it's so
this
funny.
was the scene that we did. This was the scene that we did in school. So I've literally seen this scene like 1,000 times. Congratulations, you are being rescued.
That's
Please
right.
do not resist.
That's what it is, yeah. Very
I'm
hysterical.
telling you, dude, after after going through that scene in school so many times, it's quickly become apparent to me after watching it again how being a Foley artist or a sound designer would ruin movies for you, because I've seen that scene so many times that now the sound effects don't I think of them separately from the picture now.
Huh.
So now when I watch the movie, I when you originally watch a movie, you don't think about the footsteps and, the chains on the handcuffs and, the punch noises and, the moving of jackets and clothing when they're walking around. You don't notice that because you hear it in real life.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I could see being stuck in a studio watching the same scene over and over and over, how that would ruin movies for you. Because now when I watch the scene, those are two completely separate things because I know that they were added later.
Yeah.
So it's like all I picture in my mind somebody in a studio moving chains and like moving shoes on a metal grate to make footstep noises.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. This moves into also one of the transitions in this movie that I actually to this day have a big issue with, and I think a lot of it is due to this character. They tried to build him up to be more than he was, and this is the character of I can't remember his name, but it's the pilot. Basically, I think Riz Ahmed is a pretty good actor. I didn't like him here. I didn't like him in Venom, but I enjoy him in other stuff that I see of his. And like I think he's a good actor, but this character to me was just very boring. So when they're walking through the desert and they capture him to bring to Saw Gerrera, it's that whole plot line. I really have a problem with the transition because they're putting him in the movie so early that it bothers me. I don't know. Did you get that feeling, or I don't know? How do you feel about it?
Which character are we talking about here?
The pilot. He's the one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't remember thinking that. Guess I really wasn't paying attention to it, but I like him as a character for whatever reason.
Interesting. Yeah, because I don't. This is the one character in this movie I actually don't enjoy. Like, I appreciate his sacrifice later on, but I don't enjoy him as a character. Like, I feel like they could have just given him a little bit more. He really gets thrown off to the side, you know what I mean, in this movie. And I even though he's carrying the message, like that's like a big detail. It doesn't seem like it had to be. I don't know. It was really kind of shoved in. It felt like to me. And it's the one part in this movie. I think it's the one aspect of this movie that I actually dislike like a lot. Like, I don't know. It bothers me every time he pops up.
I mean, I feel like they could have easily, maybe made his character more present and given him more stuff. But
yeah,
I don't know. I like the character. I never really had an issue with it.
Yeah, I mean, but
and it adds, and that scene, that scene with them, and when they what's that monster called that like wipes his memory?
Kill it. I hate that.
Yeah.
Kill it. I think that is
When
so
they-
bad. That's poor.
that scene, that whole thing, I don't know. I don't really have an issue with it because one
Really?
of the things that I like about this movie is that there are a lot of things happening at once,
Yeah.
and you're waiting for them all to come together. So there are like multiple plot lines all leading to the same place in different planets, which is another thing. I don't know, you noticed that we are going to a lot of planets really quickly in this movie. We are going a lot of places.
And I actually
like
think it's all cut
5,
together
6,
well.
7. It is.
Yeah. Just the one
So
transition.
I don't know. I don't necessarily have an issue with that character.
Yeah.
I like him as a character.
Yeah, I think they cut it together and paced it out really well. It's just the transition over to the desert that bothers me. It's the only one. And every time
we know you got issues with deserts.
It's actually, you know what? I gotta say, this desert in this movie, that was one thing I wanted to make sure I pointed out, is I actually felt like they made this one a lot more original. Like, it looked like it was its own desert design. This one did not bother me, the desert
It's
itself.
just because of the civilization.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Whereas a lot of the desert planets we see aren't really that habitable. So
Mm-hmm.
we don't see a ton of built up civilizations,
Mm-hmm.
but there is a civilization in this place, so it makes it stand out.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I definitely felt like it was definitely a more original looking desert. So yeah, I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. The desert in this movie does not bother me one bit, actually. I think it's a really cool looking desert. I love the aesthetic of it. Actually looks like something more that I would expect to see, which I know inspired Star Wars, but in like the upcoming Dune movie. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I felt about this desert
Mm-hmm.
and the look of it. But I tell you, man, this is how much I'm not kidding you when I say that. Get it is when every time I hear him say that, it's nails on a chalkboard for me. Like that's how bad it is. I don't know
Yeah,
why. I
I
can't
still don't really
pinpoint
know
it.
what he's saying.
Get it. He's such. I like Sog.
Really narrows it down.
I like Saw. I think Saw Gerrera is a cool character, and I actually liked Forrest Whitaker playing the character a lot. But my biggest problem with it was just him saying that line. They should not have had him deliver that line, and they should have come up with a better name. And the way he delivered it was
Oddly enough, I like Forrest Whitaker as this character. I like Forrest Whitaker as an actor. Um, but oddly enough, I would have been okay if they would have chosen somebody random. Like I almost want it to be somebody random because I feel like there are a lot of characters in this movie that um they're either you don't know who the actors are, or they have minor roles that maybe people that are fans of them know who they are. But so I almost feel like it would have made this movie even better if we just had no big actors. Like just make them all kind of low level actors.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Yes and no. I feel like Felicity Jones just killed it as Jyn Erso in this movie. Like, killed it. Like, and she's obviously a well known. I understand that because that's tended to work
I
in Star
did not
Wars.
know who she was before Rogue One.
Oh, really? So you never saw like Theory of Everything or that movie or?
No.
Okay, she's really
To
good
this
in that movie
day,
too.
other than the movie that you literally just named, I don't know a single movie she's in other than Rogue One.
Okay, yeah, no, she's actually really I think that she did an incredible job. The Forrest Whitaker thing, I think, was more attributed to. I think they still plan to do this. They're going to use Saw Gerrera in live action across multiple projects, and I think Forrest Whitaker is contracted to play him in these multiple projects. What those are going to be, we'll see. I mean, he showed up in the Jedi Fallen Order game. Forrest Whitaker did as Saw Gerrera, so he's in that. So I think that they just plan to use him, which is why they wanted to cast a Forrest Whitaker, or it could be a gimmick. Who knows? But he either way, I liked his interpretation of it. He did it justice.
I feel like they probably needed a little bit of star power just to gather a little bit of attention to the movie.
Yeah, because again,
I remember him being in the promos.
Oh, of course. And again, I mean, this movie was, like we said, it was such a big risk to even try to do something like this, you know? And yeah, it paid off. I mean, I feel like putting Darth Vader in the promos was probably enough, but you know, why not? If you can get forced, get forced, you know? But moving into Jyn though, and you know, the rebels taking out. Very cool. This whole rebellion scene, very awesome to see Mon Mothma again. We haven't seen her since Return of the Jedi, so I thought that was a really awesome character, or a really awesome callback. To see her again. I believe Akbar is in the scene. Admiral Akbar is also showing up in the scene. Cassian's in the scene. I mean, I think the whole interrogation is it's done really well, and you really feel you're really feeling the vibe of the Jyn Erso character, I feel like, in this moment. And you don't really need a lot more than what they're kind of giving you here. She's, you know, clearly got she operates in a very gray area. It's like it's made very clear throughout the interrogation scene. I think they did that very successfully. I also really like that just out of the blue, Bail Organa shows up. I don't know why I love the character of Bail Organa so much. I do. It's because of that Leia, Princess of Alderaan book by Claudia Gray. But even in the prequels, I always remember seeing Bail Organa and being like, that guy just seems cool. You know, I know he's Leia's dad, but
he seems nice.
Yeah. When he comes on screen, you get a comforting presence from him. You know what I mean? Like
it is weird. It's almost like somebody that you would you would go to his house for dinner, and he
Yeah.
would be like, you like knock on his door, and he's like, "Oh, it's good to have you. Hey, honey, put some soup on."
Yeah, really, seriously. Yeah, and it's like, and honestly, like when he, anytime I see him in anything, I feel this way. Jimmy Smits, that's the actor's name. Anytime I see him in anything, he gives me his comforting feeling. So to see him show up, and even the first time I saw it, I was like, I got a big smile on my face. I was like, it's Bail Organa. Like, he welcomes you into this film. You know what I mean? And it was really awesome to see. And no lines here. I want to point that out. He has no lines here, and it's still got such a reaction in the theater when he showed up. It's amazing what he can do just with the expression. But anyway, so that was very cool. So they basically, they're gonna go find Jin's father. Or no, they're gonna go find Saw Gerrera before they find Jin's father. Because Jin doesn't know, does she, that Galen's alive? Or do they know that? Saw Gerrera, I think, is who they have to find
She
first.
said they asked about him, and she basically says she basically just imagined that he's dead. Like, she likes to think
that yeah.
he's just dead, so that she doesn't have to worry about it, basically.
Right. Yeah, so she's like, I like that about her character too. I mean, we see her, she kind of ignores problems. You know what I mean? She just kind of lives her life the way she wants to do it. There's a lot of people, especially in today's America, that we see who are like that. I don't want to get too political, but like with everything going on, we're just like, we're going to ignore the problems and we're just going to push forward. And we know people like this,
I wrote something down. It comes a little later, but since we're talking about it, I'll just visit it here.
Yeah.
There is a point where she's talking.
Is it the flag thing? Is it the flag line?
Yeah, talking about.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Basically, like, you're okay with Republic flags, like, flying over the universe, like tormenting people, basically. And she says it's not a problem if you don't look up.
Yeah, it's an amazing line.
It's a great line, because it's a line that kind of makes you think, because no, you're right. Like, without getting too political, in our world, there is a lot of, suffering will never stop happening as long as humans exist. It's an inevitability. Suffering will always happen. There will always be tragedy. There will always be people being mistreated. There will always be misjustice, or injustice. And unfortunately, you're right. There are a lot of people that think, well, if I don't look up, then I don't notice it. Like, people think, if I just close my eyes, it's not happening because it's not affecting me. And that's how Jyn Erso lives her life. She chooses to put blinders on. Like, she doesn't even really want to know if her dad's alive or not, because she thinks in her mind, she just likes to imagine that he's dead, basically, so she doesn't have to worry about it. So she doesn't have to worry about anything.
Yeah.
So she just lives in a state of, she likes to pretend nothing is happening, so she can try to live her life as good as she possibly can. But and it's unfortunate because it doesn't make problems go away.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
That's what it is.
And she seems to be this kind of, even on the same hand, it's a really interesting dynamic, because she seems to be rebellious in her own way too, though. Even though she's trying to, live her life the best she can, she still has this rebellious side to her. And that's how she's lived. It's really interesting. And you're right. It's all coming back to me now. I don't know what I was thinking. They tell her that it's going to be an extraction. They're going to get the father out. And I thought this is really cool, because it's a side of the rebellion that we've never seen before. When the guy pulls Cassian over and he's like, there's not going to be an extraction. You got to snipe this guy. It's like, damn, the rebellion did shit dirty. Like, nobody can say that they didn't, I know that a lot of people like to really put these movies in like black and white terms, and, or the lore even, and just in these black and white terms. But it's not black and white. And it really reminds me of everything DJ was telling Finn in Last Jedi. You know what I mean? It's like, it's all machine.
Well, there are very there are very few things that happen in life in general that happen completely clean. Like
Right,
the
right.
rebellion, they have dirty work that they have to do, or they feel they have to do. And I like that about this movie, that you do see that there is some stuff that they've had to do. Like they're not
Mhm.
just this fairy tale. They're always
Yeah,
the good guys. They're always doing the right thing. Like they've had to do some dirty stuff. And
yeah.
you know, even in real life, there are very few times that I can think that the good guys didn't have to do something dirty. Like
Right.
one of the few examples I can come up with is like Gandhi, like during Gandhi's life, during the hunger strike and all that. Like
Yeah.
he was one of the few people that chose to live without violence, without uh provoking people. Like he's one of the few people. But you know, you go back to like in American history, you know, you can go back to like civil rights marches and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
even back then, you know, things had to be done to get attention because it was the right thing to do.
Hmm.
And um, you know, not everything always comes out perfectly without violence, or you know, without making some tough calls. But same thing with the rebellion. It doesn't make the rebellion bad. It just means that to make change, they had to do some pretty loud stuff, and they had to do some stuff that some people would think is dirty. But I really like that we see that, because in world history, I feel like we cover that up.
Hmm.
In real life, we cover up the dirty stuff. We want to make the good guys look squeaky clean and the bad guys look awful, but that's
Yeah.
not how life is. And I
Yeah.
don't want history to be taught like that. So I like in this movie that we see the good guys aren't always squeaky clean. Sometimes things have to be done, and it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't make them right or wrong. It's just the truth.
Yeah, and I like that. And again, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I like that even like later on we see Cassian even get kind of screwed because, you know, they clearly didn't completely trust him to finish out the job because they ended up sending in the, you know, the fleet, the rebellion fleet to finish it out if he couldn't take the shot. So I found that to be interesting as well. So I mean, it's just, you know, they're doing everybody dirty, but they want to make sure that, you know, they reach their end game. And that's really what it's all about. You know, you know, I mean, Galen Urso, let's be honest. I mean, he did a good thing, and he was clearly on the right side, which is unfortunate. But you know, I can't blame the rebellion for thinking that he's a liability if you keep him alive. You know, because they don't see it that way. You know, we get to really see what Galen was really doing. But moving into it, I mean, I love I love K2SO's little you're giving her a blaster. Do you want to know what the odds are for using it against you? And Cassie just
It's
lets us
high.
get going. It's high. It's very high.
It's very high.
I love
I love that.
K2SO, man. He really
Okay, he says, uh, I find your answer vague and unconvincing. He's got so many good lines in this movie.
Oh hell yeah, he does. Oh man. So we're going to Jeddah because we're gonna go see Saw Gerrera because to see if Saw has any information. Um, so they're trying to, you know, get into the town. I mean, I like this. You know, they're trying to find ways to be as incognito as possible when they're getting through the town. I like when they
Do
tell
we see Tarkin before this or after this? At some point we see Tarkin.
You know what? Thank you. I think it is right before. We do see let's talk about Tarkin for a minute. Yeah, because right before we see Tarkin because
it's worth discussing.
Definitely. So this is the exchange I believe where Tarkin's pretty much playing like he's on Krennic's side here, you know. Just right in the beginning anyway, which it goes south pretty quick. You know, so they're talking about Death Star designs. I mean, you know, a lot of people had problems with the look of Tarkin. I think, you know, maybe years down the line we might, but I think they did a pretty good job considering that they had to recreate a dead guy and put him in this movie. I really enjoyed that. I mean, what do you think of the scene?
Obviously I was very excited to see Tarkin.
It's cool. Yeah. It's cool.
Surprised at first, kind of blown away, kind of wondering, what am I looking at? I like with the people I was watching it with, we were all kind of like, what's happening? Like, who is that and how? And it's fake, right?
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
kind of confusing at the second because we hadn't really seen that technology before up until that
No,
point.
now you see this shit all the
Um,
time, but it's
yeah, watching it now, it's clear that it's fake.
yeah,
Um,
I agree. It just doesn't bother me that
but
much, though. Yeah,
right, it doesn't bother me because I really appreciate seeing him, and we know that there's no other way that you could have done it. Like,
oh yeah,
I
he
feel
had to
like
be in
it's
the story. Mm-hmm.
he had to.
Yeah,
So there's really no other way it could have been done. That was the best way that they could do it. And for the time when it came out, which wasn't that long ago, really, looked pretty good, and we'd never
it
seen it
did.
before.
It did.
It had people questioning. I heard people in the theater like, "Is that real?" Like,
Yeah,
and then there are some people like, "That's so fake." But the technology was such on the cusp that you're kind of back and forth at the time where you weren't used to seeing it, so you think for a second, could that be real? And then at the same time you're like, but it does kind of look fake, but it's kind of convincing.
yeah,
But when you watch it now, it's clear it's not going to age perfectly. It's obvious now when I watch it that it's not real, but once again, it's not something that bothers me. I'm glad to see him back. Tarkin is just all around a badass. It's great to see him again. So I like this scene. I love the surprise of seeing him. I didn't know that he was going to be back in this movie. So yeah, I don't have any issues.
yeah. I glanced over at my poster. I know his name is Peter Cushing. That's not why, but it was honestly because I couldn't remember if he was actually on the poster of the original or not, and he actually is. That's pretty cool. I guess I never realized that till now. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, he's kind of like blued out in the corner, isn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah, I've got that poster over
yeah.
here.
Well, he was an awesome character in the original movie, and I want to commend the guy that did Peter Cushing's voice so damn well in this, though, because it sounds uncanny. Like it's Tarkin. I mean,
Yeah,
without a doubt.
did somebody actually have to do his voice?
Yeah, they got a guy to do an impression. Yeah,
That's impressive.
it's
I
really
didn't know
impressive.
that.
Yeah,
I thought maybe it was some sort of weird artificial intelligence, like using old recordings, which
yeah,
I'm sure is something that'll happen in the future when we
yeah.
get that technology. But
I don't know. I mean, to me, it's unnecessary though. When you have such good impressionists out there, yeah, go get them. To do something like this. I
right,
mean,
no,
'cause
it
it's
sounded
great.
good.
Yeah. No, they actually, yeah, they brought in a whole separate guy to do it. Yeah. So that's yeah, that was really really cool. And this is where I really start to like Krennic, is anytime him and Tarkin are having exchanges. But he's real. I mean, it's really Tarkin's petty. You know what I mean? Like, he's a really petty motherfucker. Like, he wants to take credit for everything here, and I just find that to be, it's almost childish, but it's still believable. You know what I mean? Because it's like, we know how these guys are. That is exactly how they've been built in the originals, and they're gonna continue to with these childish type antics. It's ridiculous, but it's pretty crazy to think that, like, I'm jumping ahead, of course, but it's really crazy because in when we're looking at it from the perspective of the original movie, we're just, all we see is this is Tarkin's creation, and it's crazy to think of it, to rewatch the originals, and go, yeah, that was not Tarkin's creation. Tarkin did not, come up with that was not his idea. That was not his achievement, as said later on. One of my favorite Ben Mendelsohn lines that's said later on, but we'll get there. But he listen, I mean, so we're going to Jeddah, and anyway, so they're incognito as much as possible. Um, really, really enjoy this stuff. I mean, when the Empire comes in well, real quick, let's talk about Donnie Yen first. Not all the action that Donnie Yen does, but just the fact that him and, oh my gosh, what is the other actor's name? I know it.
I don't know. actual name, just his character name.
What's the character again? Because I can't think of that either.
Maze, what is it? Maze Malbus or something?
Yeah, Maze Malbus. You're right. That's Donnie Yen or the other guy? Because I get the names confused, the character names confused.
I guess I don't know which one's Donnie Yen.
Donnie Yen is the blind one.
Blind. Okay, that's what I thought. So he's what's his name? Chirrut.
That's right, Chirrut and Maze Malbus. Thank you.
Yeah, Chirrut.
I hate that because they are great characters, but I just always forget their names for some odd reason. And
well, their names they're not really obvious. They're not said a lot. Like,
it's true.
Maze's name is said a few times, but the only person I recall saying Chirrut's name is Maze. And when he says it, like, it's quick and it's kind of hard to understand.
Yeah,
so I didn't really fully know their names until recently.
That's true. He doesn't really even say. I don't even think it's even toward the end. Till toward the end, he says it. If I'm not mistaken,
yeah, right.
It's in the final quarter.
Blown away.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy. Anyway, so yeah, you're right. Either way, two very cool characters. I like that they're the Guardians of the Wills. I mean, obviously that was going to be George Lucas's original name for the Force, you know, and I find that to be pretty cool that they brought that back into this movie. Found a really cool way to incorporate it. So it's like, you know, it's these guys that believe in the Force, even though they might not be necessarily Force sensitive, you know. I mean, but they got to be kind of, right? Because, you know, we see what Chirrut's able to do. But anyway, either way, it's pretty crazy, but he so we're moving into this is where the Empire comes in, starts wrecking shop. And I think that this is one of the best action. Is your cat having so much fun over there or what? Like, I keep looking at him playing with that shit.
Yeah, well, I was twirling the pin around in my fingers, and she got interested. So then I just started poking her in the forehead with it. Now she's like super interested.
Fair enough. But yeah, so this is where the Empire comes in, starts wrecking shop. I think that this stuff is really, really awesome. It looks great. It's got, this is where we start to get our real gritty, edgy type action, and Jin, you know, Jin throws like a Hail Mary, you know, going out in the middle there and saving the kid that was screaming for her mom. Like, then Jin,
what a gal.
Yeah, oh yeah. You gotta love her character just based on that alone. She has heart. That's actually an important element to add to the character. Even in that small moment, but you know, we start to them Cassian and Jin start wrecking shop. And I like when she shoots one of the security droids, obviously, and then K2SO walks up right behind him and, did you know that wasn't me? And she's like, yeah, of course, you know. And then when he throws the grenade and the troopers go flying, he's like, you're right, I should have just stayed on the ship. That was incredible.
Yeah, he asked him why he wasn't on the ship, and he said, I thought it was boring and I thought you were in trouble.
Yeah. That's right, that's his timing, man. It's all about the timing with K2SO.
I like K2SO just came so out of left field for me when I saw this movie. Like, right when I saw him, I was like, oh, I'm gonna like this character.
Yeah.
And by the end of the movie, I was like, how did they create one of my favorite characters in all of Star Wars and make me love him in one movie? That's so impressive. Yeah. He's like I describe him as, he's very similar to C-3PO, except he is he's more forceful. Like, he's assertive and he's sarcastic. Yeah. And he has an attitude. Yeah. So, but like, his function is very similar to C-3PO. He's just not a wimp, and he's assertive with his opinions.
Right. Dude, when they brought a few years back, when they brought Alan Tudyk on stage announcing that K2SO, he was going to be coming back for Cassian Andor for K2SO. Like, it wasn't obviously quite the reaction that Ewan McGregor got when they pulled him out for Obi-Wan. But it was close. It was certainly close. Like, he definitely, K2SO gets a lot of love from a lot of different fans. I mean, it's very clear. But anyway, so after this, I think here is where they go out and then they're trying to sneak past the Empire with K2SO. And but one of my favorite lines here too: diagnostics. I'm capable of running my own diagnostics. Thank you very much. I thought that was awesome. The slap he gives Cassian is clearly a brutal slap, but he sells it pretty well. But clearly not good enough for the Empire, because then they want to come and wreck shit. And then I love Chirrut coming in and let him pass in peace. I think that is awesome. And then when Donnie Yen, Chirrut, starts wrecking shit up, oh my god, that is amazing. Like, he became just he maybe not in terms of development, but just in terms of like badassery. Like, he is one of the coolest in this whole movie. I love when
it took me a second to warm up to his character.
Really?
Because he just like, it's just that he came kind of out of nowhere, and he was already just kind of a strong character.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's true.
Clearly fairly powerful. And I don't know, it was just really bizarre. It was bizarre to me. But by the end of the movie, I was like, I like this guy.
Yeah, I mean, I love when but in this scene too, it's really awesome when they do that close up on his face and he does that like turn around, and you can hear, the sound effect of what sounds like he's got some force in him and he's gonna use it, and it cracks me up because his buddy Maze, his buddy Maze, thinks that he's a fool, and doesn't have the force at all. But it's like, it's very clear he's force sensitive. He starts wrecking shop with all these troopers. One of my favorite things he says here is your foot all right? And he like knocks him on the like, I think it's just so like, it's very Star Warsy, like it's quippy humor, you know what I mean? It just works really well in the moment. And then of course they all ultimately end up getting captured by Saw's people after the fact. And the line is classic, are you kidding me, I'm blind, when they throw the bag over his head. It's amazing.
That was so funny. So perfect. Like, seriously, the dude's blind. Why would you put a bag over his head?
Oh, amazing. So then they bring them all in. Then they're all basically locked in the prison, all except for Jin. Jin's obviously got a little bit of clout when it comes to Saw Gerrera. Dude, Saw Gerrera is a freaking nut, though. Like, let's be honest, he is a nut.
He really is.
And like, even, oh my gosh, when you see him in some of the Clone Wars and Rebel stuff too, it's like, Jesus Christ, dude, you are ruining things. Like, he is a nut. But regardless, he cracks me up in that way too, almost. And I like the way, again, that Forrest plays him here. I mean, I like that Jin and Saw go back and forth with one another about, bad things they did to each other. It's like, okay, clearly Saw Gerrera was not a good choice, to try to raise Jin Erso. Like, it's very clear. He might think his heart's in the right place, but like, especially when she's like, you dumped me, it's just like all these things are coming up and you're like, all right, maybe this guy was not a good choice to raise her, but is what it is. And this is where we get the great not a problem if you don't look up line, obviously. But then I like when we flash into the prison scene, or not prison, it's not really a prison, it's like Saw Gerrera's own little prison, but then they start to talk about that line, which I actually think is really good, about like some men live in their own prison all their lives, or something like that. There's that line in there that's really, really good, and I think Maze says it in the moment, and I think it's a really strong line. And we move into, but then we're flashing back to Jin, and Saw shows her the message from Galen Erso, and let me tell you, dude, it changes your entire perspective on the movie the second that message plays and Jin's watching it, because we are learning this information alongside with Jin. And it's like, damn. I mean, it's almost in its own way a plot twist, you know, like he's explaining all this stuff and you're like, oh shit. So this is that makes a lot of sense. He put a flaw in the middle of that thing. Aha, you know, there's your plot hole. And it changes your perspective on not just this film, but, you know, A New Hope in a big way. Like a big way once he starts explaining this.
They do it well too. It's not like, it doesn't feel like plot convenience. Like in a lot of movies, when you're filling holes like this or gaps in the story, a lot of times it can feel like plot convenience. Like it's like, oh, of course, like that.
Right.
They deliver it in a way that seems cheesy, that seems like too perfect. But when they deliver this, it's natural. The way they progressed this story and wrote this story, it was very much like it changed your perspective about all of the movies. And you know, like I said earlier, that's one thing I appreciated about this movie, is that when there were what holes there were in the story or the plot line or characters' backstories, they fill in tastefully in places throughout the movie. And this is one of those cases where they fill a lot of holes and they do it in a way that is emotional, that makes sense, and it just makes you go, to where now if I'm watching Star Wars, like, it's really hard for me to skip Rogue One between episode 3 and 4. If I'm going to watch them that way, 1 through 9 or 1 through 6 or whatever, like, I can't skip Rogue One. I just can't. It's too important.
Right. It's in the back of your mind either way when you're watching New Hope, and it just speaks to the power of this movie. It's always, the events are always in the back of your mind. I mean, part of what makes this scene work so well, I mean, for a couple of reasons. Number one, and I love the way they paced it all out now in retrospect. But like when you're first watching this movie, it was like you were saying, we are jumping from planet to planet like so quickly in this first like kind of quarter of it that you're like, this movie, you could be watching this the first time around going, this is kind of messy. I don't know how I feel about this. But when you get to the scene, because of the way it's delivered and how strong the scene is within itself, I mean, Felicity Jones is acting her ass off right here, and she's really adding to the emotion. Like, you buy her in this moment. And because of the way it's delivered, you're like, oh, I see where this is going. You know, I see why they did everything they did the way they did it in the beginning of the movie and why it was structured the way it was. And it just makes everything, you know, prior to this work even better than it already had. So, yeah, that's why I love this scene so much. It's a very pivotal moment for Star Wars in general, you know? So yeah, it's pretty cool. Mads is delivering the lines so well to Jin too, you know. Yeah, I mean, there's just something, it's a beautiful scene. It really is. It's bittersweet in a way, but it's still like this really beautiful, you know, very well made scene, you know. So basically Jin sees the message. You know, K2SO is, you know, they launch the Death Star. They decide to try it out. One of my favorite, it makes me laugh, and I don't know if it's supposed to, is Ben Mendelsohn's, oh, it's beautiful. When he sees that's, I don't know if it's supposed to, but I like it. Like, it works for me. I don't know. It really worked for me the way he delivered that line. It's like, it kind of was really consistent with the Krennic character up until this point. So, yeah, I thought it was a really awesome line.
I like K2SO. There's a problem on the horizon. There's no horizon.
Yeah, that was hysterical too. But yeah, this is really awesome too. This is something we haven't really seen before, is being inside the planet when the Death Star hits it, and like what that looks like. And I thought they did really well for that. And then so they're trying to leave, right? And I like Saw Gerrera's save the rebellion, save the dream. Like, I thought that was really, he's a fucking nut, dude.
One thing about Saw Gerrera in this movie, I wish he wouldn't have died that way.
Yeah.
Not that I have a problem with him dying. I'm fine with him dying because I'm not familiar enough with him to care that much.
I was fine with it too.
But it was it's just like weird. Like everybody's escaping.
It's kind of true.
There's no reason why he can't go with them, and he's just like, no, go without me. And it's like, dude, you're not. It's not like you got shot or you're
Yeah.
sacrificing yourself. You're literally just no, go without me. And it's like, no, bro, get your ass on this
Right.
freaking ship right now.
Yeah.
I would have been it to me. It would have been better if they were running and something collapsed on him on the way, and he told
Right.
them to go, or something like that. That would have made a little more sense. But
Yeah.
it's not that big of a deal. It's just
I
something that when I
gotcha.
watch it, I'm like, but why, bro?
Well, yeah, I understand what you're saying, believe me, but for the people that knew Saw Gerrera, from canon, that's actually a pretty big payoff because he is that nuts. Like, that is so consistent with Saw Gerrera. He's just a nut. He just does things, and so it was very consistent with that. So I enjoy it for that reason, but you're right, it's kind of a payoff for the people that knew him from other pieces of canon, but on the same hand, it's like, that wasn't a real epic death, was it? Like, he just like he kind of went out
It
like a
seemed
bitch.
pointless to me. Right. It seems pointless to
Yeah.
me because normally when you hear people go, no, go on without me,
There's
it's
a
usually
reason.
because they're injured and they're holding them back, or,
Yeah.
something happened to them where they can't move on, or they're sacrificing
Yeah.
themselves. In his case, he's just basically like, nah, dude, I'm cool. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to stay here and make some Totino's pizza rolls and just
Well,
ride it out.
in all fairness, though, overall, Saw Gerrera is injured. I mean, he has this thing to help him breathe, and
Right.
and he's probably got some brain damage too. But I mean, I think that's a
Well,
given.
that's clear.
Yeah. So, to me, it's
I
like,
do like, I was going to say, I like the Death Star eclipsing the sun during all this. I thought that was
that
cool.
is a sick
Death
shot.
Star goes right in front of the sun, and
That's
it's
a
like, ooh,
sick
that's
shot.
sick.
That's
And
awesome. Mm-hmm.
yeah, watching the freaking ground come up like that, and
Yeah.
there were some people that were all like, really, like it took too long, or like making fun of how the Death Star like attacked the city, like watching how it destroys whole planets, like in other movies, how it's like boom, and then they do it to the city and it's like so slow and it happens. But I'm like, we got to remember that they're not using the Death Star's full capabilities. They're specifically trying to destroy a city. They're
Right.
only trying to destroy one city. They're using one fraction of the Death Star's capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
So it's reacting a different way. It's like a short, quick burst attack. So it would work kind of like a massive explosion.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I understood that from the get-go. I mean, I think it's yeah, I just think it's cool that we get to even see it from that internal view, though. Even I think that should be just a blessing enough. And come on, we're using Star Wars logic anyway, so people need to chill when it comes to that. We've spoken about this many times about how Star Wars logic isn't supposed to match up with science, so let's just gotta take it for what it is. But I do like when they're trying to get out of there and wait, I haven't made my calculations, and Cassian, I'll make them for you. They just blast off out of this planet. Like, the dialogue in this movie is so quick, it's quippy, like it's very, very Star Wars humor, and it works so well. And I think a lot of the humor, and I mean this in a good way, like I think some of it even like just came up on accident, you know what I mean? Some of them maybe more subtle humorous moments, and it really, really works well. I think
part of the reason I like it so much is that the humor does feel a little different. It doesn't feel, there aren't really any moments where I feel the humor is forced. It feels very natural. And there's not a lot of it. Most of it comes from K2SO, which I think is why this movie feels a little more gritty, because they're not trying to make these characters like funny and likable to children. Like, they're trying to make these characters real and raw. And there are few moments where the actual human characters have funny things to say,
right.
Like one of the few funny things is, Chirrut getting a bag over his head, like, I'm blind. Like, that's one of the few actual human funny things that happen. So I think I like that about this, because with a lot of Star Wars movies, they try to inject a lot of humor in, which I appreciate.
Yeah, that's fine.
But
Yeah.
you can tell that they're trying to open it up to a younger audience. They're trying to make these
Hmm.
characters funny. And reason why I enjoy watching this movie so much is because it feels it feels more natural. It feels more raw. They're not forcing humor on any of the human characters. It's really just the droid that provides comedic relief, and he does it in like an adult sarcastic way.
Yeah, it's almost like this might be a weird analogy, but say you're taking your kids to Chuck E. Cheese, and they serve a lot of food that is geared toward children, right? So and say you took your kids to Chuck E. Cheese like once a week for like a year, right? And you'd be getting pretty sick of just eating the food that's geared toward children, even though it wasn't all that bad. You know what I mean? But then you find out that they've added beer to the menu, so then you're like, oh, well, I can enjoy a little bit of both. You know what I mean? Like the food that's geared toward children and the adult beverage as well, and that's kind of like what Rogue One is. It's kind of the adult beverage. It's like we love all the
Right.
other elements of Star Wars, but we want to be able to watch a movie that's geared more toward adults but still keep the Star Wars in our lives. You know what I mean? and that's
And
kind of
it's not adult either. It isn't like there isn't anything that would make it, oh, this is an adult movie. It's
no.
literally they've just tweaked how they tell the story, and they've changed their delivery, and just the way that they focus on the story and portray it
Yeah.
comes out as something that you think an adult is going to like more than a child. Whereas
Right,
with
right.
all of the other Star Wars movies, you're like, adults and children are going to really like this. And
Yeah.
Rogue One, a child is going to like it, but the adult is going to appreciate it more than the child.
The child's gonna like it. The adult's gonna love it. They're gonna be like, you could take your kid to it, and you can watch it with your kids. But it was like we made this one to be geared just a little bit more toward you. That's just basically how it is. And I think adding another element to the menu of what you can watch Star Wars wise, and it's one of my favorite things about Star Wars in general is that the different stories are made by different creators, and there's going to be something for everybody within this universe, and I think that's what makes it also special. But so we're moving into, so off of Jeddah, I think this is where we move back into old Krennic and Tarkin back at it again, because Tarkin then tries to take the credit here, if I'm not mistaken. He's and this is one of my favorite lines is we stand to miss my achievement, not yours. Like they are it's aggressive. Like this argument is really aggressive, but yeah, and Tarkin is just like critics going mad, and like Tarkin's just keeping his cool, as Tarkin should. Like that's how I want to see Tarkin act, is just like he's really playing it cool. And so critics like, I mean, we're not there yet, but his plan is like, I'm gonna go tattle, I'm gonna go tell Vader. So we'll get there here in a bit. But moving into this, so now we're gonna get into the stuff with the extraction. They're gonna go try to get Galen Erso out of the Empire, quote unquote. So they move in. I really like, I can't remember what planet this is exactly, but I really like the design of this with the rain and
Edu?
Edu, thank you. And it almost reminds me, it's very similar to Octo. If Octo had like an Imperial base built on it, like it's a very similar styled planet, and I really enjoy the rainy type dark planets that we can get sometimes. So when we land, and we cannot miss Jin trying to convince everybody about what she saw. That's very important. That's very important to what's going to happen here. What was it? What was K2SO? One clear shot and the whole system goes down. That's how you said it. One clear, and then Cassian just shuts him up. That's a really funny line, just to get that out of the way. Yeah, so Cassian's asking, this is one of my another one of my favorite lines in the movie, if she got any proof of this, and she's like, "You don't believe me," and he's like, "Well, I'm not the one you have to convince," and he's right, he's very right about that. So I really enjoyed that element of it, but I also like, in the back of his mind, he's like, I'm on my mission. I'm still gonna kill Galen Erso. That is my mission. But he does have the internal struggle coming up here, as we see. So that, he's got the sniper out on Galen Erso. I think it's a Sharut that senses, he's got, that's a man who wanted to go kill. I think K2SO points out that his gun was in sniper position, so Jin's running out after him to try to stop this.
I like that there is a little bit of subtle development, even just like between the relationship of K2SO and Jin Erso. Like, whereas before it was clear that they didn't really like each other that much.
Right.
But she did kind of look out for him on the previous planet, when the stormtroopers were coming. So I feel like at this point K2SO was kind of giving her some back. Like, yeah, his weapon was in sniper mode.
Yeah, I'm gonna help you out.
So you see some more moments throughout this movie where K2SO and Jin start kind of making a little bit more of a bond. There's some more development between them. So I like that. I like that here the other people had her back. They knew what was happening and they had her back.
Yeah. Yeah, this droid, it's almost like I think that this is the first droid that you really see that, he shows like quite a shred of a heart outside of 3PO. I mean, and some obvious moments. I mean, like he really has a heart for these characters. Like it's in there. It's underneath all the snippiness that he has and sarcastic tones. Like he does have a heart for these people. But anyway, I always think it's one of my favorite things about Star Wars is adding these personalities to droids. But so moving into this whole thing which is really crazy, really emotional. I mean, when they finally come in and take out the Empire, on the base, it's insanely emotional. And then, Jin and Cassian I think after this is when Krennic goes to see Vader. Sorry, that was a nice sight. But I think after that is when Krennic goes to see Vader. He goes to Mustafar, to Vader's castle. I really liked seeing Vader's castle. I liked seeing Mustafar again, too. I think that's always dope. I liked Vader's entrance. And
why he would want a base on Mustafar, Lord only knows.
Yeah, it's kind of explained in the canon. I can't remember the exact reason why he built his castle over there, but there is a reason to it, and I just can't remember. I wish I had a better explanation for that, but it's definitely explained.
I just really want a base on this miserable hot planet that just reminds me of how much pain I was in and am still in, quite frankly.
Yeah. I think it was a Palpatine idea to build his castle there, and I just can't remember why. Probably something to do with that.
He probably wanted to keep him angry.
Right. Well, yeah, probably. That's actually a really good thought. I would have to look into that, maybe get back to you on it, but
there would be a lot of psychological ties to that. So
yeah. So I'll state the obvious with the scene. James Earl Jones has aged, but I frankly don't give a shit. It's just awesome to hear him voice Vader again. This is one of those things where my my love for Star Wars as a fan kind of takes over maybe what is more of a problem with the voice performance. It's just like, I don't really care. It's James Earl Jones should be voicing Vader regardless of how old he is. If you can hear the age, okay. And I people made fun of it. I really like the line, the careful not to choke on your aspirations, director. I thought it was awesome. Like, I don't know why people make fun of it. I love it. It's so consistent with Vader in my opinion, but so many people made fun of it. Whatever. I love it. I think it's a Vader line.
There's nothing inconsistent about that line.
Yeah.
It's a great line.
It's amazing.
If you don't like it, you can fight me.
Yeah. He just He walks away. He just he just chokes out Krennic. Like it's amazing. It's amazing. Like
We already know he's into BDSM. He's always choking people, so that makes sense.
it all made sense. Yeah, I really love this scene. So Krennic's
I
like,
was kind of mad at Disney though, because I wish they wouldn't have used Vader at all in the promos, in the
it would have been cooler as a
and
surprise. I do agree. Yeah.
I was mad when I first watched this movie. Now there was some redemption, obviously, with the end.
Oh yeah.
But when I watched this movie, I was like, really? That's it? Like, that's all we got? Like, because it felt like, oh, Vader's back. Oh, shoot. Oh, and everybody was all excited. So I wish they would have left it out completely, because then we would have seen the movie and been like, Vader's in the movie, and we would have freaked out. But people were expecting it, so a lot of people were let down that we didn't get more of him, because people started speculating, that there was possibly going to be more of him, or and are hoping that there was. But of course, by the end of the movie, we got a little redemption, which we'll get to. And as I watch it now, I'm completely fine with all the Vader that we got in this movie. I'm 100% okay with it. But at the time, seeing the ads and the promos and stuff, I was wanting more. So when I didn't get more, I was kind of mad at Disney.
I understand that, but in all fairness, if they'd put Darth Maul in the promos for the Solo movie, that movie probably would have easily crossed the $1 billion mark. In all fairness,
it would have, but it would have gotten crap reviews, because people just
fine.
would have been mad.
That's fine, but at least they would have made their money back on it. So, like, I understand the reasoning. I understand the reasoning when when they are, taking a risk like this. I understand it would have been cooler. This is a personal experience, but I also get why they made the choice to put them in the promos too, obviously to sell tickets. I mean, that's what it is. But we get our Vader fix. That's for damn sure. If any movie gave us our Vader fix, it's this one. But yeah, so moving into now, Jin's all upset with Cassian, so they're back on the ship. They're gonna head over to Yavin 4, to the Rebel base. He's basically saying, it was his mission. He's trying to explain it to her from his end. She's trying to explain it to her from her end. But I like that by the time we get to Yavin 4, I mean, Jyn Erso here makes incredible speech, I think, on Yavin 4. Unfortunately, none of the rebels are really buying it. They're not really buying what she's trying to sell here, unfortunately. So, but we're going to be moving into the Battle of Scarif here. But I like that Cassian's really the first one to come around on Jyn here. And I really, really enjoy that. He's like, he believes him. And then I like that K2SO is, I believe you too, Jyn, or something like that. And he's like, Cassian said I had to. I thought that stuff was really, really funny. Yeah, but let's talk about first of all, they're taking off. A couple little Easter eggs in there in here for anybody that's watching that's a Rebels fan. At one point they call out for General Syndulla, who's obviously for Rebels fans, Hera Syndulla. It's over the intercom, and then we also see the little droid Chopper at some point in the in this moment when they're walking around in Yavin 4. So just for Rebels fans out there, those are pretty cool little nuggets. So then we get around to we're moving out and they're getting on the ship, and we see 3PO and R2. I think the philosophy at the time is that there would never be a Star Wars property without them in it, but then Solo kind of broke the trend, unfortunately. But I thought it was cool that they had them in there. For just for a moment, and it made sense that they were here. It made a lot of sense. I mean, 3PO and R2 are really the only characters that lived throughout all three eras of Star Wars when you think about it. So, always makes sense to have them in anything. Really, you can show glimpses of them like this, but yeah, whatever. So we're moving on, and then what ship is this? And this is Rogue One, you know. I mean that's a lot of fun. I really like that. There is no Rogue One. Well, there is now. I think K2's personality just works so well for all this. We're taking off, and we are taking off to Scarif, which let's get into this battle with Scarif and how amazing it is.
Scarif reminds me of Dubai or something.
Yeah, I mean,
it's really cool looking.
To get into all the details of what's happening in this battle, it's a lot because it is such an extensive battle. But it's an extensive battle where I felt like I was really hanging on to its every moment. You really get the scale of the walkers, the AT-ATs. I think that stuff is really, really cool. I really love the space battle that's going on above Scarif. I like them trying to get through those shields. You got Admiral Akbar up there, which is like it just feels like something that came out of Return of the Jedi, which is it's really, really amazing. It looks beautiful. I don't know, man. I mean, what do you think of Scarif? Go ahead, you can take it away. I mean, there's so much here, but
I first of all love the setting. I think the planet looks cool. Like I said, it almost reminds me of Dubai. It's like very tropical, very just it's cool. It's different.
Yeah.
The battle is so dope.
It is
so dope and extensive and long. It's something. Something I really like about this movie that is really special about this movie in particular. Not that you're not excited for the other movies during the action, because you always are.
Of course.
But specifically during this movie, there are a lot of things happening at one time. There are a lot of moving parts. There are a lot of things that need to happen. Everybody has an important piece to the puzzle.
Yeah.
And we know that happens in other Star Wars movies, especially the newer movies where like episode 8, like there are many things happening at one time. We're cutting between different storylines. But the during this movie, the stakes are way high. The stakes are very high in this movie because we know there's going to be a sacrifice made. We know that everything hinges on this happening. So the stakes are really high. And it's interesting that even though we know how this movie's going to end, because we've seen the movies after it, we've seen the original trilogy. We know what happens. We know that they succeed. But for some reason, when you're watching this movie, you just like want to punch a hole in the screen, like, show me what's next. What's going to happen next? Like, you're just like really excited because they're bouncing from like ground to space, and then they're in the tower and they got to pull the files. And then like, there are so many different things happening and you're just like, ugh.
Yeah. Save the tower stuff, cause we're going to get into that obviously, but yeah. I mean, cause that's a very important piece. I mean, one of the things I wanted to say, like, I mean, that, one of the things that Lucasfilm said that they wanted to do with this movie, and I think they really succeeded, is to mix Saving Private Ryan and Star Wars, into like that style into Star Wars. And that, I think, is what makes the battle so successful. It works in that on something of that scale. And it feels like a war film, a World War II film. It really does. And they achieved that so incredibly well. And I genuinely, I understand that it's only going to work in certain stories, but it's a style that I wish was integrated into more Star Wars movies. You know what I mean? Like, I really do. I think Mandalorian could be heading to something like this, very similar. I could see it's taking place in that, or, but I'm just, it's exciting when we see something like this, and it really only comes into Star Wars once every blue moon. By once every blue moon, I mean this movie, and that's it. I mean, it really is an incredible, very gritty style that just and I mean the score that's happening here is keeping you in. Obviously that's a big part of it too. I mean it's just everything that's going on in this battle is keeping you on the edge of your seat. But and I like that, you know, we spend time with these very random rebels. Like we don't really get names for them, like especially in like the space battle sequence. You know, we're like kind of honing in on some rebels that, you know, we don't really know a lot about, but like we care about them in the moments, you know. Like it's incredible, man. I don't know how they actually quite achieve this battle. It's really one of those it's kind of an anomaly because you would think that is something that they would do in more Star Wars films, a style like this where it's a little bit more on the edge. But again, they're adding a new flavor to the menu. You know what I mean with this movie, and that's the I think
part of it is in all the other movies we have a strong presence of the Force. We have a lot of Force users.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get, you know, lightsaber battles, and, you know, we get a lot more tension with those characters.
Mm-hmm.
And what makes this movie gritty and special is that these are normal people. These are everyday people. They're not Force users. They're just people with a mission, with passion, with something that they need to accomplish. And they do it on the ground and they do it in the air. And I think there's a reason why, you know, people like you and I enjoy this battle so much. And, you know, I'm sure a bunch of other people, is because in real life, this is how we fight. Yes. In real life, this is how humans fight. Yes. We fight by ground, we fight by air. We don't have lightsabers, we don't have the Force, we don't have that.
Yeah.
We, you know, this is like storming the beaches in Normandy. Like they're in the water, there's the beach, like there's explosions, there's all sorts of stuff happening. So it feels very reminiscent of a real life battle, which I think we can connect to more. And I found it extremely refreshing, despite my love for lightsaber battles and, you know, and Force users and all of that. I love seeing that. There's an element of badassery to that we really enjoy seeing, but it is really cool and really refreshing to see a whole storyline of normal people fighting bare bones guerrilla warfare style on the ground. It feels relatable. It feels almost cooler in a sense because it's familiar and it's raw. So I really, really like this style. I like that it feels a little more adult. We've got a lot of stuff going on. We got a lot of people blowing up. There's a lot happening.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I mean, and one of the things that's more I watch things like Mandalorian, this movie, even like minor moments in Solo, the aftermath novel trilogy. I can go on all day, but you know, the more I dive into that type of Star Wars, the more I'm beginning to realize, and while I love both aspects of it, I'm definitely war over lore, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like the Force and all that, it's all awesome, don't get me wrong, and we wouldn't have Star Wars without all those aspects. But and Josh and I are really talking about this on the breakdown earlier. It's like we have been so oversaturated with the Force for so long now that we are so ready to just, you know, spend time away from it. And you can have it in there, but you got to use it very sparingly, kind of like this movie does, kind of like Mandalorian does. It's there, but it doesn't need to be what's taking over. We just really want new characters who don't all have the Force, and you know, you can make good shit without it. And I think that, again, this movie proves that. So I wanted to make sure I threw that out.
I agree, because once again, I feel like the Force, because it's something that isn't real to us in real life, that we don't have, that we can't relate to, and the way that they fight, we just can't relate to that. So it's really badass to see, and we love it. And it's the reason why we love Star Wars in the first place. But after, you know, 9 movies of it, there's a point where a lot of people, they want diversity. People start wanting things like The Mandalorian and Rogue One, because there gets a point where it feels like there's only so much that you can do with it before it starts either feeling cheesy or played out, because we've seen it all before. Not that there's more that they can't tell, because there definitely is, but there need to be breaks like this, because like I said, we're human beings, we have real life, and we're drawn to things that we can relate to. And
Yeah.
real people fighting real guerrilla warfare is something that we can relate to, that it never gets old. Like, it doesn't matter how many World War II movies come out, we're always going to watch them because we can relate to them, and it's intense. And there's a certain level of intensity about that fighting style that just doesn't get old, and you can keep doing it over and over and over. Whereas, lightsabers and using the force, if you see it movie after movie after movie after movie, it starts to feel like I've seen this all before. It just, it's like a skateboarder doing the same three tricks over and over and
Yeah.
over and over and over. And you can introduce new tricks and make it new, but sometimes you just got to go back to the roots. And of course I want more force, of course I want more
Yeah.
lightsaber. So nobody think that I'm saying I'm tired of the force, I'm tired of lightsabers. I think it's good to root yourself into what we connect to with reality, and
Yeah.
with just raw fighting style,
Yeah.
raw storylines.
In due time, I think we need more of that in due time. But for right now, let's focus on these, more war over lore stories. I mean, I'll tell you, I just started rereading the Aftermath trilogy again for the first time. Those used to be some of my least favorite of the novels, of the canon novels. But now that I'm rereading them, I'm like, this is really quenching my thirst for these types of stories that are just, they're away from the Force. You know what I mean? And like, oh boy, I mean, so it's just like that. The content is out there for Star Wars fans to either read or watch. It's just, you got to seek it out, unfortunately. So it's tough sometimes. I get it, but anyway. So we let's talk about this tower stuff. I mean, them trying to get the files and all that. Very very cool. Last Jedi connection here. I don't know if you actually picked up on. Basically, Jin at one point picks up basically what looks like a blueprint, like an outline, to track spaceships through hyperspace, essentially. So it's like the Empire. I mean, these plans have been getting worked on for a while, and I thought it was kind of cool because it was a foreshadow in a way, because this is the movie that was released right before Last Jedi. So I thought it was cool that nugget was in here. Fun little thing.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that, honestly.
Yeah, it's you got to see. It's pretty cool. If when you catch it, and they're going through all the files and stuff, but they're anyway. So we another good line was I have a bad feeling about this. Shh, quiet. Like, I thought that was cool. He didn't even get to finish the line, so it was a really unique way to put that line in here. I mean, everything happening here is intense when they have to climb up the tower. Cassian's, clearly, I mean, when Cassian goes down here, man, I thought he was dead, like, for sure. We haven't even talked about K2SO, by the way, his death, which was so dramatic, man. It's like, oh my gosh, I love this character, and you're gonna kill him, but I felt like he still got payoff because he died for like one of the best reasons possible. You know what I mean? He sacrificed himself, and it's like, oh man, the heart really came out of that droid. It's like he really sacrificed himself for the cause. Can't believe I skipped over that, by the way, but we definitely gotta, talk about that. That was.
I don't know that I've ever
moment.
been so distraught by a non-human death.
Yeah, exactly. I felt the same when I watched it.
Or non-human, non-animal, like a robot death. Like,
right.
I was like nearly to tears when I was in the theater.
So sad.
The interesting thing about this movie is that this movie brings out more emotion in me than any of the other movies.
Yeah.
Like, there are moments in the other movies where I kind of tear up a little bit, and it's special. But this movie specifically, like towards the end of the movie, like the story is just, it's so heavy. Like, the sacrifice is heavy, and you get to know these characters in such a short period of time, and the sacrifices they make, it's so tragic. Like, there's something, every time I watch this, it's like I have to tear up a little bit, and I'm like, man, this is a movie I've seen so many times. Like, why does this always happen? But for some reason I'm watching it and I'm like, man, I hate that I have to watch this again, but I love that I have to watch this again. It's so sad. It's so good.
Yeah, I mean, the goal of the narrative to me was to make a tragedy story. You know what I mean? It's great to have that, like, well, I mean, Saving Private Ryan is a tragedy within itself too, but you know, you
Saving Ryan's Privates.
But yeah, that's what they wanted to integrate here, was a Saving Private Ryan meets Star Wars, and that movie is a tragedy on its own. So you're like, so this movie, like, it follows that, you know, and they definitely wanted to make a tragedy. That's pretty clear. You know, oh, real quick, I wanted to mention too, though, anytime they show a shot of the Death Star in this movie, it looks so cool because it is so. I know you're talking about the one over the sun, but I just wanted to mention, like, even like when we're on Scarif and we can kind of see the glimpse of it in the sky, like that's like it's really really amazing. It gives such a great aesthetic to the movie. But yeah, so the tower, I mean,
it's quite menacing when you see it coming over the horizon and you know what's about to happen.
Yeah. I think right here too we should get to what's his name, Chibit or something like that. Chibut Danian. Tribute.
Oh, Chirrut.
Chirrut, thank you. I couldn't think of that. I wanted to put a B in there for some reason.
Sherbert.
Chirrut and Maze. This is tragic too. I mean, this stuff is really really sad but amazing. You know, the I'm one with the force is with me. It's like, Jesus Christ. I mean, the way that they lined all this up for all these characters to die, you're right. It's incredibly tragic. And the only one I wasn't sad about was the pilot, but I appreciate his sacrifice when he blew up in the ship. I mean, you know, I appreciate it, but
I like the pilot.
I'm glad you like him. I like the actor that plays him. I just didn't like him in this movie. I don't know. But miscast maybe is a better word. I thought he was miscast in that character. I don't know. Something about him.
I thought his character seemed like a really nice, likable guy.
Yeah. I don't know. He just felt unnecessary. I don't know. Didn't like him. But I didn't feel as sad about that, but it's like you're caught up in the tragedy, so whatever. I mean, but when Chirrut and Dwight Chirrut, I don't know. And Maze
when he's throwing beats at the stormtroopers.
Yeah, but when they're sitting there, you know, saying the lines over and over, it's so sad. And then we have Jyn climbing up to the tower. This is pretty much where the movie ends. I mean, you know, she's wanting to get the shields down. I mean, she's gonna fight. She's gonna fight with Krennic here. This is a really really cool moment between these two. And then finally we figure out Cassian lives. Why am I blanking on this? Cassian shoots Krennic, right? Essentially, that's how he...
Yeah.
Right, okay, sorry. So Cassian comes out of nowhere, shoots Krennic. I thought that's what happened. For some reason, it didn't sound right when I was thinking about it in my mind. But Cassian shoots Krennic, and Krennic goes down, and then, they're successful. They transmit the plans. Then they're going to go out onto this beach, and they're like, well, we know we're going to die now. I mean, Scarif is pretty much, it's done. I mean, Scarif is over at this point. Yeah, I thought that was incredibly sad too, watching Cassian and Jyn die. But I thought it was such a powerful moment when Cassian looks at Jyn and is like, your father would have been proud, you know? That was a very, very powerful moment. Especially coming from Cassian, who's just... So, I don't know. He wants to just kind of do his job and go home, you know, throughout this entire movie. And he learned to care for Jyn. It wasn't, and I liked it. It was refreshing that it wasn't a romantic thing. You know what I mean? I found that to be incredibly refreshing. Like, he was just a good person. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I mean, they didn't make it a romantic thing. I mean, some people argued it because they like grabbed each other's hands, but they were like all they had in the moment. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, I didn't look at it as a romantic thing. I thought that was incredibly refreshing, where a lot of movies feel like they have to have that between your main man and woman. And this movie decided to go a different route. And I think that also makes it fresh. But excuse me. So now we get our little mini Star Wars horror movie happening up in space. Let's talk about that, because this is, I don't even know how to describe this other than the way I just did. Your little mini Star Wars horror movie. I mean, the way that, you know, the rebels are running from Vader. I love that we're on the ship that's in A New Hope. You know, I like that these are the events that are taking place like directly before it. Pretty cool. Gives you some cool context for that movie. But when it's just dark in that room and then you just see the saber, and what Kino's doing with the score here is just gold. I mean, it is gold. It's almost as good as Duel of the Fates. Like, I'm not gonna lie, almost as good. Not as good, but close. I mean, it just really works for the moment. Vader, like, putting a guy up on the roof and just, like, going backward with the saber and cutting him while he's on the roof. Like, where do you come up with this shit? It's incredible. It's incredible. We see Vader in a way that we've never been able to see Vader before, and it excites me so much. So much. It almost, I don't know, it's very redeeming to the version of Darth Vader we get in Revenge of the Sith that Hayden Christensen tried to play. In a way, it's got a redemption for that for me, and it's just like, it's awesome. Like, it's awesome. There's no other way to describe it. Adam, go ahead. What do you think of the Vader scene? I mean, just...
I know every time I watch a Star Wars movie, I feel like my favorite lightsaber scene is just constantly changing. I genuinely think this might be my favorite lightsaber moment in Star Wars.
It's so good.
And I like it because it happens in such a short amount of time, and yet it takes your breath away.
Yeah.
Because it's a character we all care about that we never really got to see go full out, like as Darth Vader. Like, we never got to see him use everything he had because, you know, like we've said before, when the originals came out, the technology was different, the choreography was different. So they didn't go that route of, you know, making him just like killing it with a lightsaber. But we knew he was powerful, you know, he's one of the most powerful people in the galaxy. But I have always felt that there's always something missing with the Darth Vader character because we never really got to see him use that power that everybody feared so much. You know, we got to see him be menacing and strangle people, and we knew he was powerful, but we just didn't get to see it like this until now. And that scene is so special. So special. It's menacing. That lightsaber goes off, like you said, takes the guy, throws him to the ceiling, keeps walking, and then just over his back shoulder and slices the guy in half on the ceiling. Christ, it's so cool. And I also like that, you know, whereas before we've talked about, you see when Darth Vader goes to do stuff, he sends in stormtroopers first. But in this case, he knows the gravity of the situation. He knows he can't trust to send stormtroopers. He's like, fine, I'm going to do this crap myself. And he just walks in and just kills it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's, man, it doesn't get old. When I first watched this in the theater, my jaw was like on the floor because I didn't know it was going to happen. Because like I said, I was disappointed because I thought we had gotten all of Vader, and I was like, is he going to show up again? Is he going to show up again? And then I lost hope because I thought the movie was almost over. And then he came in that scene, and I was like, it's like I didn't know what to do with myself. It's like I had to go check my pants afterwards. It's just,
it is such a surprise, man.
4 hours later, I was calling my doctor, you know?
It's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, I'm still stuck on, for my favorites, Empire and the Last Jedi throne room scene. I mean, those two are still I'm on a toss up for those, but this one might make my number 3, like right under one of those two. It's
Empire is never going to make my list, even though I know the gravity of it and the importance of it, just because what I'm used to seeing with modern technology,
I get
it just isn't spectacular to me.
Yeah.
Visually, just because I know what Jedi are capable of.
Yeah.
Obviously I love Empire, but
Yeah.
yeah, all the modern lightsaber sequences, like just with the choreography and everything that we have now, is just, it blows your mind. So yeah, most of my favorite lightsaber scenes are with the newer movies, but this might be my favorite.
It's pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I could definitely understand why it'd be anybody's favorite. I mean, it is. It's an aspect of a character that we've never gotten to see before, of a beloved character, which is so strange because he's such a menacing character. But, you know, at the same time, it's amazing to see. It really, really is. But it's like, there is something to Vader. It's like, why do we root for this man? You know, in these moments, why?
it's messed up, isn't it?
It is.
It's not even like a Walter White situation either, where he's
No.
like doing bad stuff, but he's kind of doing it for a good reason, so you want him to
No.
win. No, Vader is just like an evil person, and you're like, yeah, kill him, yeah, cut him in half, yeah.
It's so true.
It's kind of like watching Halloween movies where you're like, yeah, Michael, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's got
like,
that.
I'm
thing
literally
to him.
watching a serial killer.
It's wild, man. It's wild, but yeah. I mean, it's just cool to see new.
It's like we don't watch a
powers
Jeffrey Dahmer documentary like, yeah, Jeffrey, yeah,
Right.
get him. Yeah, that would be really messed up, would it
Right.
not?
Yeah. Except for the kids. When Anakin went after those kids, I mean, that's, I think, where we drew the line, all of us. We were like, oh, that's
yeah, we
too
drew the
much.
line there.
We were
definitely
all upset
like,
about that one.
not the younglings. Like Anakin, we said kill yinglings, not younglings.
Oh, brother. But yeah, you know, dude, you're right. Like, I could see this being anybody's favorite lightsaber moment easily. It's in the top 3 for me, I would say, at this point.
And obviously my favorite color is red, so I really enjoy just seeing just red.
That's the other part of it.
Hallway.
There's a certain aesthetic to that. It's like it's so cool to look
Simplicity.
at. Yeah, and it is shot like something you would see in a horror movie. It's unbelievable. It's so cool. Yeah, Vader's ruthless right here. That's for sure, and he's more ruthless than I think we've ever seen him. But yeah, man, pretty cool stuff. I mean, can you? Never mind. I'm not even gonna tease you with that idea.
Well, now you gotta say it.
Well, he was dead in this part of the timeline anyway. He's dead by now. But I was gonna say, could you imagine if it was Maul coming through with that? Like, I don't think any.
Oh boy.
If it was Maul, it might have been my favorite scene, lightsaber moment, but it's not, unfortunately.
Still holding out hope that we'll get something like that from Maul one day.
I heard some stuff recently that I might tell you off air, but I just can't talk about it on air because I don't know how true it is. But the person who told me seems to be pretty confident about it. So, yeah, I'm not gonna talk about it, but yeah. So basically, let's get to this very ending here. The last line in the movie, Hope. Such a great way to end this film, man. This is actually in the scene. It's Carrie Fisher. They de-aged her. I think that's pretty cool that she actually came on to film it. For such a short moment, and they. Listen, man, people make fun of the de-aging, man, but you got to remember, for the time, which is so weird to say because it was only like 4 years ago, but for the time,
4 years ago, right?
But true, but for the time, this looks pretty good. You know what I mean? Like we saw Leia, and that was another surprise. You know, might have been the biggest surprise of the whole movie. I mean, really, because it's like, you see, we didn't expect it, and
it's not like the prequels where they made a choice to do something when they could have done something else that looked better. It's not like that. Like if we wanted these characters in the movie, that's what had to be done. There's no alternative. That's the best technology they had. There was no way to do it practically. It had to be done like this, and it looked good for the time. It still looks decent. You can tell, obviously, now, but you know, it's good to see regardless of how it looks. And, you know, probably as time goes on and the technology improves when they restore these movies, I'm willing to bet that it'll look even better.
Right. That's a great point too that you just made. Like there's no other way to bring these characters in at the time, and you, yeah, you're right. And they both Tarkin and Leia made so much sense for the story. I probably would have, honestly, I would have liked this film a lot less actually if they were not in it. Like a lot less, I think. I think that they just add that much of an impact just by being in it for the short amount of time that they are. Yeah, I mean, and with Leia being there, we know exactly where we are before New Hope. You know what I mean? Like we know exactly when the story took place. It doesn't take a Star Wars canon connoisseur to figure that out. Once you see, Leia, you got people got to remember they got to appeal to the casual fans too, because these things need to make money. If you're gonna put something in the theater, it's got to somehow please the casual fans and not just the hardcore fans. So yeah, Leia being here made a lot of sense. But yeah, man, that is the ending. That's the ending of this movie. Adam, we have gotten through all of the movies at this point. That's kind of crazy.
Yes.
It was nice to
I've
go.
I've got a little piece to say real quick about why this is one of my favorite Star Wars movies.
Go ahead. I would like to hear it.
So I know a lot of people are so on this movie, depending on who you ask. Some people are like me and just rave about it and love it, and some people are take it or leave it.
So sorry to interject your thing. I'm still listening. Just keep talking. I just got to get up for a second real quick. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay.
Do you?
Some people are like me and they absolutely love it. Some people are take it or leave it, and some people just don't like it, don't think it was necessary. But despite all of that, I will say there's one thing I feel like we can't dispute, and it is that a movie filling in the gap between 3 and 4 was necessary. This played a very important purpose. If we took it away now, we would miss it pretty severely. At least I would miss it big time because it fills a lot of big gaps. And it's heavy. And there's just something special about all this time getting a new movie that sits between these two trilogies that can make you feel emotional and make you feel re-excited, revitalized, re-energized about watching the originals again, because now you watch it with a different weight on your chest, knowing the sacrifices that had to be made for them to succeed in the original trilogy. And that's something that we knew that, Rogue One existed. We knew that the Death Star plans had to be gotten somehow. We just didn't know the story. And there was, a lot of injustice there. A lot of people sacrificed their lives to make that happen. So it's unfortunate that whole time we had to go not knowing how their story was told, like how it went. And we have that now. And I think that's special. But what really makes me like this movie the most, what I wanted to say was, when they're on Yavin, when they're at the Rebel base, and Jyn Erso is trying to convince them of what she saw and convince them to go fight, basically. What we see is a rebellion that has completely lost hope. We see a rebellion that is normally built on hope. I mean, we can all agree the rebellion was built on hope. That's the one thing they had. They didn't have numbers. They didn't have all the technology. They were up against the beast constantly. Throughout the whole story, the rebellion is always up against the beast. All they have is hope. That's the only thing they have keeping them going. And what we see here when Jyn is trying to get them to fight is we've seen that they've lost hope. They don't feel like they can do it. They have to surrender. They have to stop. They're drawing the line. And I feel like it's for the first real time we see the rebellion lose hope and back down and feel like they can't move forward. And the reason this movie is so special is because we don't have Jedi or anybody real special doing this. We've got humans. We've got a group of people that care so much about destroying evil in the galaxy and bringing justice, real justice, not that messed up dark side version of justice, bringing real justice for real people. And they don't have any special abilities. They got guns and they got each other, and that's what they have. and they risk their lives knowing they're going into a suicide mission, that they're not going to get out of there, most likely 99.9% chance they are not getting out of there alive, but they go anyway, despite the rebel alliance losing hope. And based on a small group of humans putting their lives on the line, we have what we know as episode 4. We have A New Hope. I mean, it can only be explained as it's called A New Hope because if Rogue One, if that squadron didn't exist, if they didn't risk their lives, they sacrificed themselves, when the Rebel Alliance completely lost hope, there wouldn't have been a New Hope. They single-handedly revitalized the hope in the Rebel Alliance. They're the reason that the Rebel Alliance was built on hope, because all that those people had was hope and their lives to sacrifice. And they did it, and they died willingly. And because of them, we have a new hope. We have a Rebel Alliance built on faith and hope, and they move forward and they conquer the beast time and time again. And that all lies on the shoulders of the Rogue One squadron. If they don't exist, nothing else happens.
Yeah.
And I think, this, whether you agree with, who played the parts of the actors or how exactly they executed the plot line or the tone of the movie or whatever, that's all personal opinion. I love it. I think it's phenomenal. But I think we can all agree that it's no small thing, the weight that this movie carries. I'm astounded that we didn't have this movie sooner, honestly, because of the weight that it does carry. It's incredible. So anyway, that's my piece. That's why this is one of my favorite Star Wars movies. I never rank them. I can't rank them. I feel like they change all the time. Plus, I don't want people to yell at me when I rank them. So I just don't. But
that's fair.
I will say, it's, if I'm sitting down with all the Star Wars movies and I have to pick one to watch, there's probably like a 90% chance, at least if I haven't watched all of them in a long time, like if I haven't watched all of them in the same amount of time, the first one that I'm going to go to want to watch, if I had to watch one, is probably Rogue One, because I have fun watching it. I like the stakes. I like the sacrifice. I like what it means. I like that the characters are one-off characters. They build, you get a relationship with them, you get a love with them so quickly, and they sacrifice themselves and they die and they never show up again. And I think it's really special. So anyway, I love Rogue One.
Yeah, I would like to bounce off of that too, because man, I wish I had before this prepped better and found the comic, the part in the comics where Luke had all this story of Jyn Erso and Rogue One and the sacrifice they made explained to him, because it's so impactful when it's being read off the page. I wish I could have brought that over to read here. I should have, probably. I regret that. That kind of sucks. But yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, there's so much about this movie that just, it makes it, in terms of it being a piece of Star Wars history that, we never really knew before. It's just astounding to be able to see and the impact it makes. I mean, and I would say, I mean, we're moving into TV next week. I mean, Ian and I are going to start up the Rebels reviews, which, damn it, I know you're under time constraints. I really wish you would make the leap and join us, but I understand. I'm just saying that I do hope, even if you don't join the podcast, you communicate with me when you start watching this series, whenever that may be, because I think you're just gonna absolutely adore it. But I wanted to kind of make a point. I mean, to bounce off your point, I mean, even in other canon things like a Star Wars Rebels, we're seeing the rebellion being built in that story, and we see a lot of the rebels go on small missions and start to make impact little by little on the galaxy, but we never really see what was it that really established that rebellion for what it is by the time we get to A New Hope. And this movie really does that. I genuinely do feel, without the sacrifices that were made by the characters in this film, the rebellion would have never had been, it would never have been established the way it became established by the time we're in New Hope. And excuse me, I find that to be so incredibly powerful. So yeah, just to bounce off your point a little bit. I want to close out too, because this is again the last time we're talking about the movies. Adam, I'm sure you'll be back when we do our Mandalorian season 2 review. I pray that we get you back for that at the very least. If you don't make the leap into Rebels, which that would be very cool. Just letting you know. So think about it. Think about it.
Be awfully cool of you.
Think about it. I mean, I got to binge that thing here pretty quick too. At least the first season, because yeah, but it's really easy to get through. But anyway, that's not the point. The point I wanted to make here was, it's been fun talking about all these movies with you. I can't believe we finally made it through them over the course of 10 weeks. So I want to thank you for joining me. For all those, it's been a real fucking blast, honestly, to talk about the movies and to dive back into them. And I mean, I don't know how to put it into words other than Star Wars is just to people like me and Adam. It's I believe anyway. It's just on this whole new level of, yes, they're movies, but they're, it's like we said. It's like, or I said when we were talking about the prequels, like we might not like a lot of things that happened in those, but even like the worst Star Wars movie is like better than just,
they're part of the family.
Yeah, we accept them, and yeah,
they're a little dumb, but we love them anyway.
Yeah, and I know that I know that people, like to shit on the sequels. I mean, let's get into that too, because and it's not that I don't think the sequels are. It's not that I think that the sequels aren't cohesive, because I actually really, really do. It's just, I get that the original trilogy is more cohesive than that. Somehow they made it, but I mean, I think that, I want to reiterate that I think that the sequel movies they're there for legacy purposes, and I strongly believe that they will make a bigger impact 20-30 years down the line. But that's that's for us to see. But
I think they're great.
Yeah, me too.
I think they're great movies. I think the only reason why people have such a problem with them is unrealistic expectations based on growing up and watching the originals. And everybody cooks these ideas up in their head of what they want to see, but at the end of the day, you're not in charge. I'm not in charge. The person who writes it is in charge. The writer, the director, the producers, they're the ones that are in charge. It's their baby. It's their story to tell. It's not our story to tell.
Yeah.
It's no different than if I decided to move across the country and get a new job. You can't be like, but I didn't want that to happen. It's not supposed to happen in Adam's life. I know how it's supposed to go. It's like, no, you don't. This is my story. This is my life. You don't get to decide where I live and what happens. And, if I have kids in the future, my kids' names and where they go to college, like, you don't get to choose that.
Yeah.
That's the same thing with these movies. These movies, they're somebody else's baby. They're somebody else's story. It's not our story to tell. We have to live with it. Just like we have to live with our decisions. We have to live with other people's decisions. And this is how they did it. And I think the younger crowd, will remember these movies growing up similar to how we remember the originals, because this is what they'll grow up with. And
I agree.
They'll appreciate them for what they are. Yeah. And I think a lot of the more seasoned folks, just based on old expectations, I think it's unfortunate that a lot of people can't enjoy them more, but it's a story we were given, and it's part of it, and I like it, and I'm thankful for it. I'm glad to have Star Wars. And last thing I'll say is, anybody who doesn't think that movies and TV and music and actors, singers, athletes, directors, producers, editors, whoever doesn't think that entertainment is essential to life, you can go eat poop or something. I don't know. You can go do something bad that I'm not going to say.
Yeah.
Because the fact is, in modern times, entertainment is how we escape. It's huge. People like to think, oh, I don't need to hear from any actors or athletes. Like, they're not important. We can live without them. Okay, sell your TV, sell your phone, live in a freaking hut with no entertainment. Let's see how your life goes. You would be fine, but you've grown up with it. You're used to it. It's part of your life. It helps us get through hard times. It helps us celebrate good times. It employs millions of people. Without actors and athletes, there are no directors, there are no editors, there are no cinematographers, there are no people running sound for ESPN or, stage crews. There are artists in general. Millions of jobs disappear. So I just want to make that point that entertainment is essential, and Star Wars has given us a lot of entertainment.
Yes.
And it means a lot to me. It means a lot to Dom. I know there are things you watch that mean a lot to you. So anyway, entertainers are people too. They're important, even if they're rich and we think they can't relate to us. They give us a lot of gold, so we can be thankful for entertainers.
Very, very well said, and I appreciate that. I really do. But to bring it full circle, though, the point I was wanting to make was Disney. I know a lot of people are complaining about them having Star Wars, but I could tell you without spoiling it, everybody, after seeing this last episode of Mandalorian, I think we're in pretty good hands. I think it's going to add a lot more appreciation to the sequels and everything else. And I think that you're going to start to see this universe become a lot more cohesive and a lot more cohesive. But I'm pretty excited about that. But so guys, just continue liking what you like. If you're a Star Wars fan, I'm gonna be cool with you. Just respect my opinion. I'll respect yours. Adam, thank you. This has been amazing. I mean, it really has been to go through all these.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I can't wait to see you again on one of these. Hopefully it's the Mandalorian season 2. Spoiler episode, but yeah. So Adam, real quick, where can the people find you?
Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and my YouTube channel. Obviously, I work really hard to put out content. I try really hard to make it better every week, make it entertaining, make it informative. So go subscribe to me there. Follow me on my pages. That's at the Red Eclectic. And give me some love. Give me some likes, some shares, some subscribes, and give Dom the same, because quite honestly, being a content creator is a very thankless job. We put a lot of work into it. A lot. It's a lot of work, and ain't no money to be made, at least right now in this stage of the process. So it's a thankless job. So help us out the way you can. We appreciate it.
Yeah. I mean, except for your adventures, I mean, with the exception of this morning, yeah, it's a lot of work. I mean, your adventures that you had this morning, I mean, obviously everything was going perfectly for you today. So, but anyway, so we are going to, I'll be putting my social media in the description below. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, leave some feedback in the comments section, share this with your friends who also really love Star Wars films and all that kind of stuff. So thank you guys for joining once again. And I will see you guys again on Wednesday. Thank you very much, and everybody have a good one.